If you're watching this right now, there's a really high chance you've said this to yourself before. I want to go pro. And at first, that sounds like a good thing. It sounds ambitious. It sounds like you actually care about getting better. Like you're not just playing for fun, but trying to take it seriously. But the problem is, most players don't even realize that the way they think about going pro is the exact thing that's slowing them down. It feels like motivation, but it's actually misdirection. Because instead of focusing on what actually builds a pro player, they're focused on the idea of being one. They're actually thinking about the earnings, placements, recognition, maybe joining an org, maybe building a name for themselves. They picture that version of their life so clearly that it almost feels real. But while they're thinking about the future version of themselves, they're ignoring the one thing that actually creates it: the entire process. And this is where almost everyone gets it wrong without even noticing. Because becoming a pro in Fortnite isn't something you chase directly. You don't grind your way toward a title like it's a checklist. You don't just play enough hours and suddenly unlock the pro label. It doesn't work like that. You become a pro as a side effect of doing the right things consistently over a long period of time. It's something that happens quietly in the background, long before anyone ever noticed you. It happens in the games nobody watches, in the practice sessions that feel extremely boring, in the moments where you're fixing small mistakes that don't seem important at the time. That's where it actually happens. But most players never stay in that phase long enough because they're too focused on the end results. They want proof that they're improving right now. They want to see it in their placements, their wins, their clips. And when they don't, they get frustrated, they lose focus, and they start chasing something else. Most players wake up, get on the game, and their mindset is completely centered around proving something. They queue into matches thinking they need to play well today, or they need to win, or they need to finally see improvement. And the second you approach the game like that, you've already made it harder on yourself than everyone else that is not thinking this way. Because now every single thing you do is tied to your identity as a player. Every mistake feels bigger than it actually should be. Every loss feels like you're falling behind. Every fight feels like a test you have to pass. Yeah, kind of like school. And that pressure builds up quickly, whether you realize it or not. It makes you hesitate in situations where you'd normally be confident. It makes you overthink decisions that should be automatic. It makes you play in a way that isn't natural to you. All because you're trying to control the outcome instead of focusing on your actual actionable actions. And the truth is, improvement doesn't come from winning. It comes from understanding the game. It comes from being able to break down your gameplay, recognize what went wrong, and actually learn from it. But if your entire focus is on the result of the game, you're never going to take the time to do that. You'll either feel good because you won or feel frustrated because you lost. But neither of those emotions actually help you improve unless you turn them into something productive. That's why you need to shift the way you measure progress completely. Instead of asking yourself if you played well, start asking yourself what you improved on. Because that question forces you to look deeper into your own gameplay. It forces you to pay attention to the small details that actually matter in the game. And once you start doing that, everything slowly changes. Now, you're not relying on the outcomes to tell if you're improving. You're creating your own progress. You're taking control of your development instead of leaving it up to chance. And that's where real players separate themselves from everyone else. Because anyone can grind games. Anyone can put in endless and thousands of hours. But very few players actually improve consistently. And the reason is simple. They're not intentional. They're just playing. And playing without intention is the biggest traps you can fall into, because it feels like you're being productive when you're doing the complete opposite. You can play for 5 hours straight and still be the exact same player you were when you started if you're not focused on improving something specific. If you're making the same mistakes today that you were making last week and you're not actively trying to fix them, you're not improving. You're just reinforcing your bad habits. And in a competitive environment like Fortnite, staying the same is the same as falling behind because everyone else is getting better. So if you actually want to move forward, you need to treat your time differently. Every session needs a purpose, not something overly complicated, but something clear. When you get on, you should already know what you're trying to improve. Maybe it's your fighting, maybe it's your awareness, maybe it's your positioning, maybe it's your decision making under pressure. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's specific, because if it's not specific, you won't actually focus on it. You'll just go back to playing on autopilot. And once you start playing with intention, everything begins to shift. You start noticing things you used to ignore. You start noticing patterns in your gameplay. You start recognizing mistakes before they even happen. And that awareness is one of the most important parts of improvement, because you can't fix what you don't notice. Most players don't actually lack the skill. They lack the awareness. They're making the same mistakes over and over again without realizing it, because they're too focused on the outcome of the game instead of the decisions they're making inside of the game. But once you bring your attention to those decisions, you now have something to work with. You can now adjust, you can experiment, and you can finally improve. And this is where you need to understand something that most players struggle with. Improvement is not linear. You're not going to get better every single day in a way that's obvious. Some days you're going to feel a lot worse. Some days you're going to play worse. Some days you're going to come home from a vacation after 2 weeks and play better. Some days you're going to question if anything you're doing is even working altogether. And this is where most people fall off. Not because they don't have potential, but because they don't trust the process. They start chasing something new, looking for a faster or a better way to get this, or going back to focusing on results, because at least that feels measurable. But that's exactly what keeps them stuck, because they never stay consistent long enough for anything to actually work out. Now, real quick, I want to talk about something that can help your performance instantly while you're focusing on improving your gameplay. If you've been dealing with low FPS, input delay, or just overall lag that makes the game feel inconsistent, you should check out Risen Tweaks. It's designed to optimize your system so your game runs smoother, your input feels faster, and your ping feels more stable. Instead of fighting your setup, you can actually focus on improving your mechanics and decision making without those distractions holding you back. If you're just about getting better, having a clean and responsive setup makes a huge difference, so it's definitely worth checking out. And if you guys want to save 15% off on your purchase, make sure to click the link in the description or the pinned comment and or use code FLOW at checkout for 15% off. And if you're enjoying this so far and it's actually helping you see improvement in a different way, make sure you like the video and subscribe. It genuinely helps more than you think, and it lets me know you guys want more videos that actually help you improve instead of just surface level tips. Now, going back to process. One of the biggest advantages you can give yourself is learning from other players instead of trying to figure out everything on your own. This is something that can speed up your improvement more than almost anything else, but most players don't do it the right way. They watch pros or high-level players, but they watch passively. They just sit there and enjoy the gameplay without actually thinking about what's happening. And if you're doing that, you're missing the entire point. When you watch someone better than you, you should be actively engaged with it. You should be pausing, thinking, predicting what they're going to do before they do it. You should be asking yourself why they made certain decisions and why they positioned themselves a certain way, why they took or avoided certain fights, and then you compare that to what you have done in the same situation. That gap between your decision and theirs is where your improvement is. That's what you need to focus on. Because instead of learning through trial and error alone, you're borrowing experience. You're speeding up the process by seeing what works at a higher level and then applying it to your own gameplay. And over time, those patterns start to become natural. You don't have to think as much because you've already seen similar situations before. That's how you build game sense faster. Not by playing endlessly without direction, but by combining your gameplay with intentional learning. And another thing you need to control is your mindset during bad sessions, because they're going to happen no matter what. You're going to have days where nothing feels right, where you just hate the game, where you're losing fights you normally win, where everything feels off. And in those moments, it's very easy to get frustrated and lose focus completely. But those are the moments that matter the most, because if you can stay focused on improvement, even when things aren't going your way, that's where you gain a real advantage over other players, because most people just give up. Instead of getting emotional, you need to stay analytical. You need to step back and look at what's actually happening, what mistakes you are making, what decisions are costing you, what can you adjust right now, because even in bad sessions, there's always something you can improve. And if you can walk away from that session with even one thing you learned or fixed, it definitely wasn't a waste of your time. That's the mindset you need to build. Every session has value, whether it feels good or not, because improvement isn't based on how you feel once again. It's based on what you do. And if you keep showing up with intention to improve, those small improvements will stack over time in a way that most people don't have the patience for. And that's what separates most players. It's consistency and focus over a long period of time, which a 99% of you guys cannot do. I know 99% of you guys are going to click off this video, and by the end of today, you're going to forget about this video and just keep doing what you're doing. And once again, that's because most players don't fail because they can't improve. They fail because they don't stay consistent long enough to see the results. They get distracted like you are after this video. They lose patience like you do after losing one single fight. They start chasing something else, like maybe a different game, a certain rank, or something else. But the players who make it are the ones who stay locked in on the process no matter what. And this can be put into any aspect of your life. So if you're serious about becoming a pro, you need to stop thinking like someone who wants the result and start thinking like someone who's willing to earn it. That means focusing on what you control every single day. Your habits, your decisions, your mindset, and your effort, most importantly. Because those are the things that actually build a pro player. And if you can commit to that for even just 1 month, if you can stay focused on improving one small thing every single day at a time, day after day, without getting distracted by the outcome, you will get better. It's not a guess. It's not a possibility. I guarantee you it. Because that's how improvement works. It's built on consistency, awareness, and your guys' intentional effort. So next time you get on, don't think about going pro. Don't think about how far away you are. Don't think about proving anything. Just ask yourself one simple question. What am I going to improve today? And then go all in on that, because that's the real path. That's what actually works. And if you stick to it long enough, the results will come. And when they do, they'll actually feel earned. So what I want you guys to do is for the next 30 days, every single day when you get on the game, think about one thing that you messed up yesterday or in your gameplay today and fix that one thing. and fix one mistake every single day for 30 days. And by the end of the 30 days, come back to this video or DM me in my Discord and tell me what you guys improved and if it actually helped you. Because I guarantee you guys, after 30 days, you guys will be an unrecognizable player if you guys actually stick to it. And if you made it all the way to the end, that already says a lot about you. It means you actually care about improving, not just hearing something that sounds good for a few minutes. So if you got value from this, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Also, go check out my creative map and actually apply what you learned instead of just watching and doing it with nothing. And if you want to support me, use code FLOWN in the Fortnite item shop. It really does help more than you think. But more than anything, just remember this: stop chasing the idea of being a pro and start becoming the player that earns it, one decision at a time. I love you all. You guys have a great rest of your guys' day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.